All right, hello everybody. It's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am very, very excited today. I am chatting with the one and only Mr. Michael J. Miller, of course, of MJM, Michael J. Miller Band, and of course from back in the day, Rappeteers and Touch and multiple other killer rock bands. So, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing, sir?
It's my pleasure to be here. There's a pop-up I have on my screen right here. I got to get rid of it. This meeting is
Oh,
being recorded by the host. Okay, close it. There. Sorry about that.
oh, no worries.
Didn't want to be looking at you with this box in front of part of you.
Right. Nice. So,
Okay.
how you doing? What's going on with you right now?
Well, pretty good. Actually, I just drove back from the other recording studio that my producer operates. We're working on a new single. It'll
Oh,
be our
cool.
first release for the next album. The next
Excellent.
MJM album, we're going to actually approach it a little bit differently and release individual songs at a time
Hmm.
as we're building up to get the full album done. That way,
Okay.
there's not a big void, which has happened a number of times in the past, where 4 or 5 years between albums and stuff like that. So this song should be ready for release within the next month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's called Live It Up.
Okay, cool. I was just about to ask if there was a title yet. So very cool, very cool,
Yeah,
very cool.
Brews and Tunes and Live It Up.
Nice. I like it. I like it a lot.
Me
Uh,
too. Yeah.
do
What kind
you?
of beer you drinking?
Oh, I am drinking. It's a local beer, a local brewery. It's an IPA. It's called Mystic Frog is the beer, and it comes
Oh,
from Ogden Beer Company, which is a fairly new brewery actually. So, and it's quite tasty, and yeah, I just picked it up yesterday.
well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah. Sometimes the craft beers can be a little on the hoppy side or whatever. So hoppy, and this one's called Frog.
Yeah, yeah. This one is hoppy. It's definitely, and I'm a hop freak, so I like the bitter. I like the hop. Like, yeah, my wife does not. She's more. I like all beer, but she's more into like traditional German style beers, lagers and pilsners and whatnot. But I'm a bit of a hop head,
Right,
metalhead and
cool.
hop head.
Well, it's called Mystic Frog.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't do what that frog in South America does to you.
All right.
You know,
Yeah. Hopefully not.
the one that you go and if you lick it, you get high like on
All
mushrooms
right.
or something.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out if I start, staring off into space and asking incoherent questions, then you'll know.
It'll, it'll be great. It'll be
Yeah.
great. Let's just carry on.
Yeah, well, let's go. Well, that's really exciting news that you got a new song coming and a new album. That's really exciting news because of course the fourth album, which Roman numerals 4 was the name of the album,
Yes.
was released in February of 2020, but I think you re-released it last year, correct?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing that happened was its release timed out perfectly with the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was released and then everything was shut down. I had a number of interviews in magazines that were on the case and they were going to do features on it. And then they said, hey, like there's nothing we can do. We're not even going to publish a magazine this month, or we
Hmm.
don't know when next, because all the newsstands are closed, the streets are dead, nobody's coming out, and nothing's happening. So it really left it up to me to do a lot of social media promotion on my own without
Right.
any support in that sense for a while. So that's why the publicist Benjamin, he said, let's look at the way let's look at the way everyone has to who's in your position. We're going to re-release it, call it a post-pandemic re-release.
Yeah, which is I think really, really a smart move because
Yeah.
I think there were so many bands that released stuff like right, yeah, at that same time. And a lot of that stuff just got lost in the mix, because like you said, I mean, you couldn't tour, you couldn't do, interviews weren't really happening that much at all. And I think, yeah, it was really unfortunate for a lot of musicians. I think that there were so many albums that just kind of got glossed over. And I think it was really smart to re-release that last year. And I know several other bands did the same thing, and were able to get things going again, which I think is smart.
Yeah. I was glad for that idea as well, because
Yeah.
it did feel like it got lost in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Not that
And
we want
it's
to say that
such a
word again.
Yeah, and it's such a great album. It's such a great album. Like every song on there is a gem. It's a fun album to listen to. It's really rocking. Like it's one of those albums like, yeah, like each track, like, I'll be listening to it and I'll hear a track. I'm like, oh, this is such a great song. This is my favorite song on the album. And then the next song comes, I'm like, no, wait, this is my favorite song on the album. No, wait, this is my favorite song. Like, and one of those that I want more. I want to, I put it on repeat a lot, when I listen to it, because I want more from it. I not more from it, but just I want more music, because it's so good.
That's really nice for you to say that. I have to admit that I experienced the same thing myself, which is good, because usually an artist can wind up not even liking his own stuff after a while. But
Yeah.
I put it on, and I just trip along right to the very end, and when it's over, I go, "That was amazing. I want more too."
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Let's
Yeah.
get it out there to the world.
Yeah, definitely. Really solid album. It's really, I, I try not to do lots of comparisons, and I don't think it's funny. What I love about the album so much is it's just straight ahead, straightforward, hard rock, kind of in your face, really fun to listen to. No bullshit, just really hard rocking stuff. And I think what I love about it so much, and what it reminds me of, not so much the sound, but it's kind of that same feeling, like, when I was a kid and that first time I heard like Rick Derringer or Alice Cooper. It's like that same kind of, like, it just grabs you and like, oh yeah, this is what rock and roll is supposed to be. Like, just
Awesome.
a
Thank
nice
you.
punch. Yeah, it's so fun to listen to.
You mentioned two of my favorites there.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Alice Cooper and Rick Derringer. It's Rick Derringer goes back to a memory of Johnny Winter's live and where
Mm,
Rick actually played live with Johnny at that time, right?
yeah.
Yeah. He's in the photo on the album.
Yeah,
And then he
great.
went solo when Johnny was playing Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, and then Rick Derringer thought it was actually Rick Derringer who wrote it, and so he released it on his All American Boy album.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess he went solo after that.
Yeah. Cool.
Which,
Cool. Yeah, but yeah, I kind of get that same. And again, your music doesn't sound like that necessarily,
no,
but it's that same feeling. It's that same rush, that I get, which I really dig.
the seriousness in the crafting of the song itself and the production.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, that's one thing the producer and I do is we really work a song in the studio. We go over it, and we may change a few things here and there, and we have to sit on it for a while to make sure everything is really gelling with us. And that's one thing we didn't, or one thing we did again with this with this album is not rush any of the songs and saying they were finished before they were finished. You know
Nice.
what I mean? We couldn't say it's done until it's done, and then you can say that's great, from beginning to end, right?
Very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's, well, that shows. I think, that's a testament to your artistry and your music, your musical prowess. I think, yeah, your dedication to what your craft is. I think there's too many people sometimes that just push stuff out. Yeah, and it's kind of half baked, or not fully cooked up, where I think, yeah, you have a really good knack at that.
Yeah, there's you could say there's a fine line, or there's a wide gap. Same thing between what turns out to be a demo or an actual album. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And if artists aren't careful, all that money and time they spend, it can still wind up being a demo
right.
for what it could be. So but it does take good ears and a lot of thought. A lot of thought goes into it to really make sure you've got it. Let me shut my phone off so it doesn't do anything here.
Oh yeah, cool.
There, I just dinged. No interruptions, please.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about the writing process for you. Kind of what is your, what is your process? What is MJM like when you sit down to write a song? How, or do you do that? Is it more, pops in your head, like a melody pops in your head or a riff pops in your head? Like, yeah, how do you approach music?
I always love answering this question. Um, Songs come from up here, right? They may happen to me when I'm walking down the street and I see the little, how sidewalks are divided in little squares every 4 or 5 feet. There's a little line divider. I may start walking in time with my feet between the lines,
Oh,
and I
really?
may have a certain beat, and all of a sudden a tune will come into my head that's right in time with the rhythm that I'm walking.
Nice.
It's happened a number of times. I could be driving in my car with the radio off, and all of a sudden a song comes in my head, and I'll know it's mine. It's not something I've heard before, and I'll start working on it and bring it home to my instrument and try to play what I thought of and turn it into a song. There are other times where I will be playing my guitar and all of a sudden riffs just start rolling off my fingers and I'll have to grab, not turn on a full recording studio, but just maybe turn on like the voice recorder on my phone and just catch that lick before I lose it.
Yeah.
I've got hundreds of ideas actually like that just came to me and I said, better catch this soon before I forget it. So turn on a little recorder in my phone and play the riff, and that way I've got it. So yeah, my songs generally they originate in that way. Usually with in the guitar sense, a riff that I'm playing, or it could be a vocal idea that I get. But usually when it comes as a vocal idea, usually there are chord changes that are in behind my vocal idea. Like as I'm hearing this vocal idea, I'll be able to tell what chords I'm imagining that are supporting the different phrases or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool. Not being a musician myself, I find the process really fascinating. The writing process and you mentioned demos. I'm kind of one of those suckers that I love when a band releases, especially a band that's been around for a long time, and they'll have like bonus, they'll say they have like a 40th anniversary album and it has bonus material and has demos on there because I love to hear that progression of how a song kind of evolves. I find that really interesting, even if the recording quality is bad or whatever. I think it's really fascinating to hear that progression of a song develop. I find that very interesting.
yeah. To add a little more info about my process, I'll start, as I said, I would obviously have to go to my guitar and start trying to figure out my idea and turn it into a song. And it may have only started with a riff. So when I decide that that's what I'm going to do, I'm going to work on that idea. I'll usually start playing it just for myself and see where the song naturally goes in my mind. If I sense a chord change or another section that should come in, and I'll try and do up a draft of the song. I'll take it as far as I can get it before recording any more of it. Just see what I can actually formulate as an artist imagining the song. And quite often I'll get it a fair way, say a minute and a half or 2 minutes, where I say that's good enough. Let's record that and listen to it and see what the rest of the song should do. Sometimes it's pretty hard to premeditate what a song should do from the beginning until the very end, until you've actually been playing it a bit to really figure out what's the best thing for this idea you've come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah, kind of like writing a book or writing a novel or something. Yeah, you kind of I'm guessing a journey. It's kind of a journey of more of a
yeah,
sonic journey. But yeah, how do we get from this and where is this going to go? And yeah, I would imagine sometimes it kind of takes out a life on of its own on to
it
some degree.
does. Yeah, it does. It can take. I can find my. Sometimes I may wind up stuck halfway through a song, and not sure of the chord changes I've dedicated to that section or whatever, and I may say to myself that's bugging me. I'll listen to it and go, it's great up to then, and all of a sudden I don't know about that part, and I'll be stuck on it, and I'll be singing that thing over and over and over in my head, sometimes for weeks before I come up with the right thing, right?
Right.
It's nice when it just happens from beginning to end, but uh, it's kind of funny. The single we're working on right now, kind of it had its original existence, and then in the studio, through the producer's ideas and my interpretation of them and my own thoughts, we wound up going around in a circle and adding a bunch of stuff, and then later looking at it, and I said, I don't know about this stuff, and we wound up stripping it down and turning it back into what it actually almost was in the very beginning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so sometimes you can overthink things, and what do they say? You think you stink, right? What in songwriting. But I don't know about that. You do have to think about stuff. But
Right.
sometimes you can, well, not all ideas will work. I mean, you have to try stuff, right? And see
Right.
if it's the best thing for the song or the section, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
You
So with the new music that you're putting together for this new album, um, is it along the same lines as, or the kind of the same vibe as four, or are you kind of what is your approach for this album?
this first song definitely sounds like us for sure.
Cool.
It's a happy rocking song. Um, I'm metal and rock together, and the collection of material that will be on the album should it should resemble what you're familiar with from MJM4,
Cool.
just something new again, right?
Nice. Nice.
Actually, to tell you the truth, an album before, or two albums before that, Valley of the Kings, I used an instrument called a quattro, which has a very ethnic sound. Here, I'll grab it. I don't know how tuned it is, but hopefully it's.
Oh, cool.
So here's this thing.
Oh, wow.
Kind of a Led Zeppelin-y sound, right? But
Yeah.
I started. Well, it's funny. I had a girlfriend called me up a few weeks ago or a month ago, and she said, "Why don't you write another song on your quattro?" She
Mhm.
said, because the song is called "Power of Life" on Valley of the Kings album. It has that sound. It sounds very Egyptian or ethnic of some group, and it adds another flavor to the album, or yeah. So she suggested, well, she almost demanded, why don't you write another song? You have to. I went, okay, I'll get it out and I'll tune it up. So I did it. I actually wound up just writing a new song on this instrument,
Oh, cool.
and it's in production right now as well. And you may have noticed with MJM4, the last song is Feather, which is a beautiful song. I love the trip it takes you on with the chord changes, but it's acoustic, and it's not heavy like the other stuff. Kind of the way Black Sabbath would put Embryo or Fluff on their album. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That it's something that's classical guitar or acoustic and another flavor. So people can look forward to that.
Cool.
This thing is ringing.
Okay.
Hello, Jack. Hey, it's talking to me. Um, yeah, so that's something to look forward to, is a song of that sort of character being on the album as well.
Nice, very cool. Yeah, I would. It's funny you mentioned the Quattro and the Valley of the Kings, because I was gonna ask about your, because I think there's some of that kind of a Middle Eastern flavor,
Yeah.
underline in some of the songs on Four as well. And I was curious about that, about kind of your, yeah, it seems like you have a fascination with that region and that music, and I was curious about that. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
mentioned the Quattro. That's cool.
Well, yeah, thanks for picking up on that. The Valley of the Kings album did really uh, it was sort of concept based. Some of the songs are concept based on the Middle Eastern theory, Valley of the Kings itself, and Egyptian pharaohs and that stuff. And then MJM4, you probably noticed also, is a lot of the alien concept.
Yeah.
Um, Treasure, that's a song about the seven. This thing keeps ringing. Um, cool. That's a good instrument when it starts playing on its own.
All right.
Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, Treasure. It's a song about the seven exoplanets that have been discovered. They're only 40 light years away, but they found that they're planets that could support human life, possibly, or could support life, right? So that's what the song Treasure is about.
Cool.
And then the song Humanoid,
Yeah.
it
Great song.
that's a song about aliens possibly being on Earth, breeding with humans, making humanoids.
Hmm.
They could already be here and we don't know it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And could it be the other song, could it be life from distant star? So that's like looking up and wondering, which everybody does. They look up in the sky and they wonder what's out there, and sometimes they see things move, and what that could be. What could
Yeah.
it be?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. So, tell me a little bit. I was really curious about the origins of the band, like of the MJM band. Like, kind of how did that come together? Did you kind of handpick the other musicians? Kind of, how did that evolve? Years back. From I guess Ascension was the first album. So I was kind of
Yeah.
curious how that all came together.
Well, there's a lot of depth to this story of that, actually. Deep answer for the question. As you know, I had a few albums with Rapid Tears, and the singer split. He went to Sweden, and that's why there was not another Rapid Tears album.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then I had put together the band Adrenalin, which got a German record deal and was a great sounding album. And the album was distributed in a lot of countries, all across Europe and Asia and whatever, and it never got a North American deal. Can you believe that?
Wow.
But yeah. But the singer, again, I hate to pick on these guys, but problems happened. Okay. The guy had to go. And then we got another singer and it didn't work out. And that's when I said, okay, I have had it, depending on somebody else to be the voice of my music.
Right.
Because too many times I've wound up flat on my face after working so hard and not having a singer. Right. I'm going to be my own vocalist from now on. That's it. Because I'm not going to betray myself. I'm not going to split. I'm not going to abandon myself. I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
So I can depend on myself because I'm here. And so that was the beginning of MJM when I made that decision. Okay. to not involve what turns out being a very identifiable voice. As you know, when any band like, say, Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, if they lose their singer, man, it's tough to replace them, right? So I didn't want to wind up in that situation again. So that's when I went solo. So actually, I put an ad in Harmony Central online here for a bass player. I was trying out a few guys already, but it's funny because a drummer that I knew from, I already had a drummer working with me.
Okay.
But I needed a bass player, and this other drummer friend, he let a guy know that I had auditioned about 10 years before, but
Oh,
they hadn't chosen. He let him know about my ad, and Jolt is his name, Jolt Hensley. He called me and he said, "Yeah, our friend Morgan let me know that you're looking for a bass player," and he said, "I'm interested." I said, "Well, that's great, Jolt. Let's get together." And it's cool because the studio we were rehearsing at was pretty close to where he lived, and so it was easy to get that initial meeting happening, and for him to make it to all the developing rehearsals and all that. And yeah, it's been with me ever since.
nice. Nice.
Yeah, and the background vocalist, she's not really mentioned as a band member, but she is really now a band member. Stephanie Dudas, she does all our background vocals and the high notes and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's quite an essential part of our vocal sound when we play live and on album.
Yeah. I think it rounds out the sound really well. I think with her vocals on there too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Her voice and mine really gel well together.
Yeah.
I've got a raspy tone, and she's able to find this tone where the two of us just kind of go right together like that, right? Tonally
Yeah.
wise. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Well, and I, not just her, I think the whole band, I think that's another thing that I like about your music a lot is how tight you guys are. But at the same time, it's fun to listen. It doesn't sound like work. You guys make it seems effortless, but it's obvious that you guys play really well off of each other. Um,
Yeah,
from what
I'm
I hear.
quite happy about the players I have. Jolt, our bass player, he actually is from Hungary.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny, I mentioned how I had met him 10 years prior to actually working with him in MJM. But when I met him, he had just come over from Hungary. And I think one of the reasons that I didn't pick him then was because I had a problem with his accent
Hmm.
and his English. It's sad to say. Uh, I think I said to the members at the time, I don't know, man. I have trouble understanding what he's saying at the time. But when he called me 10 years later, he still had his Hungarian accent, but I could have a conversation with him just fine, where he wasn't trying to still figure out the English language.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. So Jolta's from Hungary.
Nice.
Yeah.
I maybe not necessarily switching gears, but let's take a ride in the Wayback Machine. I was curious about your beginnings as a musician. Did you come from a musical family? Kind of what was the impetus for you with guitar, and kind of how did that all start?
I definitely came from a musical family.
Oh, cool.
Yes, my father played in the Air Force band. He was
Oh,
in the
wow.
Air Force, and he played clarinet and saxophone in the Air Force band. And then I found out before he passed away that he was actually in a band in my hometown with the father of a drummer that I knew.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, yeah, it freaked me out. I said, Dad, you're telling me this just now? I've known that family all my life. I didn't know my friend's dad was a drummer that played with you. He
Wow.
goes, yeah, it was me, him, and some other guy that I didn't know. But yeah, so yeah, my dad was a musician. And my mother played the piano, and my sister also played the piano and did ballet. And my oldest brother was an absolute record fanatic.
Hmm.
Um, Back in those days, you bought 45s every time a new song came out that you like. You just run to the corner and spend $1 on a 45, and you got an A and B side, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so every day I was hearing new music from as early as young as I can remember, right? And so I was exposed to music, all the hits, and as it changed and progressed, I was always hearing the newest stuff. And my other brother, he was playing guitar, and he actually had a genuine thing, would be worth a lot of money, a Fender Strat, like a 1959 or something like that, something that'd be worth like big bucks right now.
Yeah.
he
Oh, yeah.
he had one, and he was sort of putting a band together, but he wound up meeting a nice girl and marrying her, and getting a job and selling his guitar, right? I
Oh,
wish I
no.
could have got it. But and at that time when he had it, geez, all I could do is, you know, bang on the strings and whatever, and I didn't have a clue. So it was when I was 9 years old. I wanted to play the drums,
Oh.
and my parents said, "No, we want you to play the guitar."
Huh.
And I had to think about it. I said, "Okay, but it's got to be electric, right?" And they said, "Okay," but then when Christmas time came, they put me in for lessons on an acoustic. And I'm thinking I'm going to get an electric guitar for Christmas, and they bought me a nice acoustic guitar for Christmas, right?
Oh.
Which I kind of went, hmm. But ultimately, it was the best decision. They had made the right decision. They bought a good quality acoustic guitar for me, and I continued with my lessons. Had a good teacher at the age of 9 until I was about 12, and at that point, I can remember my sister and my other brother always egging me on to try a song. Hey, Mike, why don't you try this? Hear that riff that they're playing in the Grand Funk Live album or something like that, or the Cream.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Try to
Nice.
play "Sunshine of Your Love." Do 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 do, and I'd grab my guitar and I'd be trying to figure stuff out. So they would encourage me to try and learn these riffs, and in turn, it helped me figure out the note system and the fretboard on my own in strange places on the neck where I wasn't being taught by my teacher at the time. Um, and at that point, I kind of started being self-taught. I think I stopped lessons at 12 years old, and just started learning, excuse me, things on my own. Um,
Cool.
Later on, I found an intriguing thing about classical guitar, and I did actually go back to university for classical guitar, right? So I did study that way.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
Yeah, because like I work as a music teacher as well.
Oh, I did not
So
know that. That's great.
yeah, so I got my teacher's degree, right?
Very
So a
cool.
lot of stuff I did have to study, which in turn all pays off in the structure of music, knowing all that theoretical stuff,
Yeah.
and it all adds up to knowing that you know what you're doing when you're putting stuff together, and being able to hear what's wrong when something isn't right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. You know, we mentioned earlier in the interview, we mentioned Derringer and Alice Cooper. I was curious, who are some of your other big influences, especially with guitar work?
um Johnny Winter, believe it or
Hmm.
not, even though he's blues, he is one of my all-time favorite guitar players.
Nice.
Always was. Yeah, for sure. I just love the way he's what really made me want to play the guitar, hearing Johnny Winter. Before that, I mean, I was, trying different songs or whatever, but when I heard that guy's playing, I went, wow, man, I want to be able to play like that. And I started trying to copy his riffs at 13 years old or whatever, just trying to go for it.
Nice.
Maybe I was missing stuff and whatever, but I hear that I want to try and do it, and you grind away at it and you get better at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And uh, Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath has always been my all-time hero. I've met him a couple of times, and he's
Oh,
just
cool.
yeah. I sat down and drank beer with him a few times too.
Oh, nice.
He's a great guy, really, really nice. He's very nice to me.
Very cool.
And so Tony Iommi and well, geez, Jimi Hendrix changed the world just like the Beatles did. You know, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles changed the evolution of music. But then when Hendrix came along and playing his guitar with that way, with that sound, and writing songs like that, it's like, wow, man, you went beyond the White Album. You just done something nobody's done, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought with Hendrix. So, and that is, um, I've heard from young kids and whatever, they're trying to figure out the significance of what's with the Beatles. I don't get it. Or what's with Jimi Hendrix? Like, hundreds of guys can play guitar faster than him now, or something dumb like that, right? And I'll say, man, it's not about how many notes he's playing. It's like,
Yeah.
he invented the way the guitar was played. If you listen to it, like nobody had ever done anything like that, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
it's all about context. And yeah, like as you said, like, yeah, if you listen to what was before, and then I mean, yeah, definitely the Beatles, and yeah, Hendrix. I mean, just revolutionary in the way he played. I mean, I love that story, and I might be mixing up who called whom, but I know, it was Pete Townsend and Eric Clapton, and one of them, I think it might have been Eric Clapton, was in a club and saw Jimi Hendrix playing in London and ran to the phone and called Pete Townsend and said, "You got to get down here and check out this guy." And I think Pete Townsend came and saw him playing and said, "I'm done. Like, I can't do that. Like,
Yeah,
it's all over."
really.
Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, he was amazing. He, one of the, yeah, I'm not a musician, as I mentioned, but Hendrix for me is, I mean, yeah, he's a god. He's just mind-blowingly good.
Yeah, it's so cool because he he did that on his own.
Yeah,
There was nobody to influence him to come up with that stuff. Like, you
yeah,
know what I mean? It's just like, wow, man. Like, you can tell he really played the guitar a lot and plugged it in a lot and experimented and loved it, because to invent a new way of playing guitar was the whole world learned from what he contributed.
exactly. I agree. Totally. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, that's a great point. Um, yeah, cool. Oh, that's great. That's cool to hear. Yeah, I love all the musicians you mentioned, and yeah, you can I think you can hear some of that influence in the way you play. Of course, you have your own sound, but I think there's elements of all of those musicians. I think to some degree in the way you play, which
Yeah,
is
thanks.
cool.
There are other guitarists I truly respect for sure, like Yngwie Malmsteen in his
Mm.
neoclassical style. That's he's like from another planet as far as the stuff he whips off, right?
Yeah.
Pretty slick. And then Ulrich Roth from Scorpions.
Oh, yeah. Genius.
Like that guy, you can tell why he had to not be in the Scorpions anymore. He was like too much, right? They needed somebody that was a little more commercial.
Yeah.
So they got Matthias Jabs. And then that's when they really did become more commercial.
Yeah.
His leads were a little more typical of what 80s rock became, right?
Right. Exactly.
Ulrich
Yeah.
was from another planet too, with the stuff he did.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing guitar player, amazing musician. Yeah. Such good
Yeah.
stuff. Um, I was curious about the so you started um Rapid Tears in the mid to late 70s, and that went on for about 10 years. How did that band come together? Because you were fairly young guy at the time, so and how did that all kind of come together with that band?
That's a great question. I fortunately had lot of early experience playing with a band. I'm I live in the Toronto area now, but I was originally from a small town, and some guys I knew had a band. There were two brothers, and one was bass and one was guitar, and this other guy that I went to school with, they had already this band together. They were like a year or two older than me, and one of the brothers, unfortunately, got killed in a hockey game. He took a
Oh,
slap shot to the chest, and yeah, Phil Evans was his name, and he died on the ice,
jeez.
and it's terrible. And I heard about it, and I definitely felt terrible because I knew the guys, and Jeff, the drummer, we went to school, the same school, and I spoke with him a couple days after it happened, and I said, "Look, it's horrible what happened." Uh, I said, "I don't want to sound like I make overstepping my ground, but if you want to try somebody new to fill in for him, I'd be happy to come and play with you guys and see what you think."
Hmm.
And he said, "Well, I'll mention it to the other guys." And so I left him for a few days, and then I asked him a bit later, "Did you mention it?" And he says, "Yeah, they said it'd be good. So come on over." So um, I went and started playing with those guys. This is when I was in grade 8.
Oh, wow.
Okay, grade 8, yes. And I started playing with those guys. And believe it or not, I was already writing my own songs at that point.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So I brought original material to the band, as well as we were playing Rolling Stones and Status Quo, and well, whatever I can think of, whatever we could do, we were doing. And so we rehearsed pretty regularly, and it was pretty cool because by the time I got in high school, we had already done some shows around the town, and we were actually asked to play high school dances. We opened up for the band Lighthouse. Sunny, sunny, sunny days.
Oh,
Remember that
yeah.
band Lighthouse?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot about
yeah.
them.
We opened up for them in grade 9,
Wow.
and yeah. So instant rock star in grade 9. It was pretty cool in a small town. And then so I played a number of high school dances with that band. But then when it came to uh, those guys who were a year older than me, finishing grade 12, I said, "Guys, now that you're done school, what are you going to do?" And they said, "Well, we're moving to this city and that city to go to university."
Mm.
And I just went, "Oh, what am I going to do?" And a friend of mine who had already moved to Toronto was discussing this with me. And he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I think I may get a job working in the mine, the salt mine. We have the biggest salt mine in the world in my hometown, Godrich. Sifto salt comes from there."
Oh,
And anyways, that my dad was worked there, and he could have got me in. And I said, "I think I'll get a job working and earn a bunch of money so I can move to California."
mm.
And my friend said, "Man, you're going to spend 2 years working in that mine, and then you're going to move that far away from your family." He said, "Listen, why don't you come to Toronto with me?" It was only a 3-hour drive. He says, "Come there and stay at my place for a week, and let's see if you can meet some musicians there."
Mm.
And I said, "Okay, let's do it." So we hopped on a bus, and we were able to stay at his place. And first day we were there, we were out going to music stores, looking at their billboards for people that may be advertising, different musicians and whatever, and reading the newspaper. And I went to a few auditions, and I got a phone call from one guy who said we started talking and we realized that we liked a lot of the same music because I was running an ad. Well, I had put up ads too in the music store, so he had phoned me,
Okay.
and he liked the stuff that I liked, and he said, "Oh, by the way, I noticed your phone number. Where do you live?" And he said, "What's your main intersection?" And I told him my intersection. He goes, "Well, I live at that intersection too, in all of Toronto."
Oh
I
wow.
said, he goes, "Wow, man, like you're pretty close." He goes, "What's the name of your street?" And I told him the street, Lyndhurst Ave. He goes, "No, I live on Lyndhurst Street." We lived on the same street. And
Oh,
that was Rick Nemes, the drummer from Rapid Tears.
oh wow.
Yeah. So we immediately hit it off and started trying to look for other members. And we had a bass player and the other guitar player. We were going through a few guitar players. We hadn't met Clayton yet,
Okay.
even though Rick did know him. But we had ran an ad for a singer, and we had a number of guys apply. But this one fella that we were quite interested in, Brian Frank, um, never showed up for his audition.
Hmm.
And we thought, well, that's strange, and tried phoning, but never really could get the guy, right? And kind of just gave up on him after a week or so. We're thinking, well, he doesn't show up for an audition. You know, why bother with him,
Yeah.
right? So we just forgot about him. And then about 6 months later, I get a phone call out of the blue, and it was Brian Frank, and he said, "Man, listen, I'm really sorry. You won't. I got to tell you what happened. Why I missed the audition." He says, "I was working at my dad's shop that day using a table saw, and I cut my finger off."
Oh my God.
Really? Yeah. He he said, "Yeah, really. It's just like that. All of a sudden, I cut my finger off and had to go to the hospital, and they couldn't save my finger." And he said it took me quite a while to get over that. So I'm just phoning you now. Are you interested in trying me out? And I said, "Yeah, of course. I'm sorry what happened to you, and thanks for the phone call. And geez, it's a terrible story. Let's get together." So he showed up with his girlfriend, and we're just at that point just doing original music, stuff he's never heard in his life. And I said, "Okay, well, we're going to play this song for you, and I'll show you where I expect the vocals to go. And maybe here's kind of I kind of hummed along sort of what I wanted."
Hmm.
And he just immediately started fitting right in. He
Oh,
was
cool.
able to catch my ideas and hit the right notes and sing with really cool phrasing, and he had a great voice. And it's like, you're in, man, just like that, right?
Nice.
Yeah. So that's how the band came together. And Clayton Bonham was someone that Rick, the drummer, had played with priorly to Rapid Tears. Actually, the name Rapid Tears was a name I came up with when I was in touch, when I lived in my hometown. I had this name for my new band, Rapid Tears, which didn't exist at the time. It was just a name. And I told the drummer, I said, "What do you think of this name?" He goes, "I love it. I think it's great." And so we had a name before we even had a full band.
Nice. That's great. That's so cool. I love
Yeah.
it. That's a great story. That's amazing. Um, so with MJM, do you guys have any shows lined up? Anything coming up here soon? Or are you kind of more focused on the recording at this point?
Um, we want to start doing some more shows. We had started just after the pandemic. I think it took until sometime last year for people to start booking themselves, right? So
Yeah.
we started playing last fall, and then started on the recording of this song. So I was working on a southern U.S. tour
Hmm.
with a promoter, and he was in Fort Myers, and a lot of bad luck things happening to me in this business. But he was in Fort Myers, and Fort Myers got hit with that serious hurricane that
Oh, yeah.
leveled that area of Florida, right? And he lost a few friends, and everything went to a shambles. for what we were scheduling, it all got put on hold for a number of months. And we had talked about starting the tour in around March or whatever, but nothing came together because of whatever. So no Southern U.S. tour is booked right now, unfortunately, even though I've spoken about it in previous interviews. But we're looking at doing some dates across the border in the States. I know a promoter in Buffalo,
Oh, okay. Cool.
Buffalo, New York. So I'm also going to be booking shows around the Toronto area as well. But I'd love to get into the States. I'm using a publicist that's in Benjamin in California.
Cool.
So it may be nice to just go to that area too. We'll have to see what comes together though.
Yeah.
Touring gets expensive unless
Yeah.
it's all figured out really well.
Right. Yeah. And I'd love to see you guys play live. That'd be fantastic. So yeah, hopefully you'll make it my way eventually. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to scoot across that top part of the States. Well, how far are you from the Canadian border?
I'm a ways. It's
1,000 miles or
yeah,
800?
probably, because I'd have to go through Idaho and then Montana to get up there.
My dad's from Montana.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So, but it's probably, I don't know, maybe not even 1,000 miles. It's probably more like maybe 700 or so, I'm guessing. I don't know. I'm so bad with distance.
Well,
It's
that's cool.
yeah, it's probably it'd be
that.
like a 12+ hour drive, I'm sure. But yeah, it's not too far. It's not terribly out of the way.
Yeah. So what would a main city that has some happening rock clubs be in Utah?
Salt Lake City would be that's the biggest metropolitan area that you would want to hit.
Okay.
Probably that would be
Yeah.
the best. There's the most clubs and concert halls. That would be where you'd want to go for sure.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what the agents and promoters come up with.
Yeah, definitely.
In the meantime, we're going to keep working on new material and looking forward to playing whatever shows we can get in on.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait to hear the new material. Very excited to hear that. And for the listeners, for the people watching this, if you look below in the description, you'll see links to MJM band pages, Facebook and their website as well. So you definitely want to check them out. If you're not familiar with MJM, killer rock band. You need to get all their albums, but definitely 4. I have a love affair with that album right now. So it's such a good stuff. Michael, this has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to hear the new music coming out in the next year or two, or whenever it comes out, or I guess in the next month or two for the new single. So I'm excited to hear that.
Well, thank you. And that is one good thing we can all look forward to is we're going to release the album song by song for for a good half of it, right? So that there's more regular material coming out from us. So
excellent.
I'm looking forward to that too, instead of the big void.
Very cool.
I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but all of our social media sites can be found on our Linktree link.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Great.
I should send that to you just so you have it.
That would be great.
Yeah. I don't know what the code for it is now, but
nice.
Whatever. Yeah. I want to thank you very much,
thank you,
Victor, and Brews and Tunes for a really wonderful interview. Thanks. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's been
Thank you very much for a great interview.
Thank you.